games need opponents. So how do I set up a game that will have, let's say, 2 opponents? The opponents are going to move around the screen and they're going to stay on the screen. They're not going to kind of exit and go away and never come back. And then I'm going to hunt them down. So if I go to loops and I just choose an on start loop, so on the start of the game, and I click on sprites and I choose a set sprite to, and I just change that to an enemy. And I also need to change the name my sprite. Each enemy must have its own name. So I'm going to call this one enemy 1. And I'm just going to go right click on that block and go duplicate. And I'm going to create enemy 2 at the same time, just to keep things clear. I go into the gray block and I can create my own enemy. For the sake of time, I'm going to go and just select some that are available here. And these enemies look truly evil. So you'll notice my enemies have appeared here on the screen, but I need to position them. The one is in exactly the same spot as the other, so I can't see it. So under sprites, you'll notice I've got set my sprite position X and Y. X and Y refers to the X and Y coordinates on the screen. So I just change that to enemy 1, and I can position that, let's say, here. And then I'm going to duplicate that, make that for enemy 2, and put it there on the screen. So it has different X and Y values. Now at the moment they're just sitting there, they're not moving. How do I get them to move? Well, if I click on the Sprite menu, you'll notice you've got to set my sprite velocity for X and Y. And that's what I'm going to use. That needs to come underneath. I hate it when this happens. I say that every time, don't I? So I'm going to set the enemy 1 velocity, and let me just duplicate that and set enemy 2 velocity at the same time. And if we restart, you'll notice it's going kind of in an exact diagonal fashion. That's because the X velocity is 50 and the Y velocity is also 50. So to make them go in different directions, I just go and change these velocities. Maybe X that way, Y that way. Kind of make it a little bit randomly. And of course I could go into the maths menu, choose a random number, and then the velocity, it would move in different directions each time you started a game. Let's just check what happens. So now they move in different directions, but they disappear off the screen. That's no good. I want them to stay on the screen. Under sprites, you'll notice you've got a little bit down, and I never spot it. I always struggle to spot it. Change, set. You see you can follow, destroy. Set to stay on screen. And I can turn that on and just change enemy 1. I'll just duplicate that and make it for enemy 2. We'll refresh the game, see what happens. So they're moving in different directions. They stay on the screen, but then when they rest against an edge, they just stop there. So I've achieved one thing. They're staying on the screen, but staying on screen isn't quite right. And you'll notice you've got different options. Auto destroy, destroy on wall, bounce on wall. Destroy on wall would mean when they hit the wall they get destroyed. So if I choose bounce on wall and bounce on wall and restart, let's observe what happens here. You notice that as I've written my code, I'm testing it by seeing what happens. And you'll notice this one's just going up and down, up and down, up and down. I think I need an X velocity because the X axis is just up and down. Yeah, that probably will work better. So now I've got 2 bouncing enemies, and that appears to work. If you just observe it for a little bit, you can kind of see how they behave. Kind of looks a bit random. You might want something to happen if they bounce into each other, or not. An extra little thing you might want to add is the scene, just a black background. It's quite retro, but you might want to have a background scene, and you can get your scenes over here. So I could set a background color, for example, and change it to a cheery yellow. Okay, and there's some cool effects you can have as well. So if you notice that it says start screen and then it adds confetti. If you click on the effect here, the confetti will last for a certain period of time. These are milliseconds, and you can make it last for 5 seconds, for example. So on the start, the confetti will start, but it will go out. Okay, if you want the confetti the whole time, then you can reduce it. Okay, and that's really all you need for task 22.